This deaf woman's interpreter was arrested. Judge Caprio's decision at the end of this video will shock you. The courtroom froze when the deaf woman signed, "Where's my interpreter?" And Judge Caprio learned the interpreter had been arrested the night before for interfering by insisting Marisol had AD rights. Marisol Vega stood at the defense table. Her eyes scanned the room, searching. Confusion spread across her face. She signed again. More urgently, no one responded. No one understood. Judge Frank Caprio looked up from his bench. He saw the question in her body language. Even if he couldn't read the signs, he turned to the clerk. "Miss Reyes, where's the interpreter?" Miss Reyes checked her notes. Her voice was hesitant. "Your Honor, the interpreter I listed as unavailable. The note says she's in custody." Caprio set his pen down slowly. The kind of slow that meant everything was about to stop. "In custody," he repeated. "The interpreter who is supposed to be here to provide this woman with her constitutional right to understand these proceedings is in jail." Miss Reyes nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. The report says she was arrested last night." Caprio removed his reading glasses. He folded them once. He placed them on the bench with the precision of a man who had just discovered an injustice. "Why was she arrested?" Miss Reyes read from the screen. "The Shage obstruction of a police officer." The room went silent. Caprio leaned forward. His voice was calm, measured, but underneath it was something harder. The interpreter who was supposed to ensure this defendant could communicate with law enforcement was arrested for obstruction while trying to ensure this defendant could communicate with law enforcement. No one answered. Marisol's hands moved again. She was asking questions no one could answer. Her frustration was visible. Her isolation was complete. Caprio looked at her. Then he looked at the gallery. Then he looked at Officer D'Angelo the bailiff. "Before you see what happens next, tell us where you're watching from and subscribe to it during the court. If you miss Judge Caprio, timestamp 9 hours 45 minutes and 12 seconds. AM interpreter unavailable. Reason in custody." Miss Reyes stood. Her voice was formal, but there was discomfort in it. Case number 2025 CR 4417. State versus Marisol Vega. 4 counts: failure to comply with lawful commands, resisting arrest. Reckless driving, failure to appear for scheduled court hearing. Caprio raised a hand. The clock stopped. He looked at Marisol. He spoke slowly, clearly, even though he knew she couldn't hear him. "Miss Vega, can you hear me?" Marisol watched his lips. She shook her head. She signed again. Her hands moved in careful, deliberate gestures. Caprio turned to the clerk. "Does anyone in this courtroom know American Sign Language?" Silence. He looked at the prosecutor. "Does your office have an interpreter available?" The prosecutor hesitated. "Not immediately, Your Honor." Caprio's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped to something quieter, sharper, that "we cannot proceed until communication is equal. This is not optional." He turned back to Miss Reyes. "Pull the file on the interpreter's arrest. I want to know exactly why Naomi Clarke is in custody and why she isn't here." Miss Reyes typed quickly. A moment later, she read from the screen. Interpreter Naomi Clarke was detained at approximately 8:47 p.m. yesterday evening following a traffic stop involving the defendant. The arresting officer, Daniel Kim, reports that Ms. Clarke refused multiple commands to step back from the scene. She was charged with obstruction. Caprio's jaw tightened. Step back from the scene, while interpreting for a deaf woman who was being detained. Miss Reyes nodded. Jail log excerpt. Interpreter detained overnight. Reason: persistent demands. Caprio opened the file in front of him. He read silently. Then he looked up. "Let me understand this. Miss Vega was pulled over. She is profoundly deaf. She requested an interpreter. An interpreter arrived. The interpreter attempted to facilitate communication, and the officer arrested the interpreter for doing her job." The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, the officer's report indicates." "I don't care what the report indicates," Caprio said quietly. "I care what the law requires. And the law requires that a deaf person be provided meaningful access to communication during any interaction with law enforcement. That's not a courtesy. It's the Americans with Disabilities Act." He turned to Officer D'Angelo. "Bring Officer Kim into this courtroom now." Marisol's hands moved again. She was asking what was happening. No one could answer her. The isolation deepened. Caprio looked at her. His voice was softer now, though he knew she couldn't hear it. Miss Vega, I'm going to make sure you understand everything that happens here. That's a promise. He turned to Miss Ray. Contact the jail. I want Naomi Clarke released immediately and brought here. I want her obstruction charge reviewed by the prosecutor's office within the hour. And I want a full report on why a certified interpreter was arrested for interpreting. Miss Reyes nodded and picked up the phone. Caprio leaned back, thought he looked at the case file again. Here he had the custody logs. He read the transcript of what happened at the jail. The narrator retells what Naomi said in custody logs, her word preserved in the official record even as she sat in a cell. She insisted Marisol needed ASL access. She told the officers Marisol could not understand verbal commands. She explained that Marisol was reaching for a laminated card that said, "I am deaf in English and Spanish." She asked them to wait. She asked them to let her interpret. She asked them to follow the law. The officers told her to stop interfering. One officer said her signing was making things harder. Another said she was creating a disturbance. A third told her to step back or she would be arrested. Shedit stepped back. She kept signing. She kept interpreting. She kept insisting that Marisol had rights. And so they arrested her. Marisol spent the night in a holding cell, unable to communicate with anyone. She signed to the walls. She signed to the officers. She signed to other detainees. No one understood. No one responded. She cried and signed and cried some more. Paperwork excerpt, interpreter detained. Reason, persistent demands. The courtroom door opened. Officer Daniel Kim entered. He was in his early 30s in uniform carrying Asmal notebook. He approached the witness stand. The clerk swore him and Caprio's voice was calm. Officer Kim, tell the court what happened on the night of November 3rd. Kim opened his notebook. His voice was steady, professional. At approximately 8:21 p.m., I observed a vehicle traveling 48 miles per hour in a posted 35 zone. I initiated a traffic stop. The vehicle pulled over after approximately 2 blocks. I approached the driver's side. I identified myself and asked for license and registration. He turned a page. The driver did not respond. I repeated the request. She still did not respond. She appeared to be ignoring me. I raised my voice. She reached toward the glove compartment. I ordered her to stop and show her hands. She did not comply. I opened the door and attempted to secure her. She pulled away. I called for backup. Caprio leaned forward slightly. Did the driver say anything to you? No, Your Honor. She was silent. Did she make any gestures? Kim hesitated. She was moving her hands. Moving her hands, Caprio repeated. In what way? I'm not sure. It looked like gestures, hand motions. Did it occur to you that she might be using sign language? Kim's face flushed. Not at the time. Your Honor. Caprio's voice remained calm. What happened next? An interpreter arrived. She said she'd been called by someone at scene. She approached the vehicle and started making the same hand motions. I told her to step back. She refused. She said the driver was deaf and needed an interpreter. I told her I needed to complete the stop first. She said I couldn't question the driver without an interpreter. She kept insisting. She was interfering with my commands. I arrested her for obstruction. Caprio was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice quieter than before. Officer, if a person cannot hear your commands, failure cannot be defiance. Kim looked down. I didn't realize she was deaf until their interpreter told me. And when their interpreter told you, what did you do? I told her to step back so I could complete the stop. Did you request an interpreter through official channels? No, Your Honor. I thought I could handle it by arresting the interpreter. Kim did answer. Body cam time stamp 7 hours 18 minutes and 4 seconds PM officer shouting Marisol signing. Caprio turned to Miss Reyes. Are there any ADR-related documents in this file? Miss Reyes opened the folder. She read aloud. Yes, Your Honor. Miss Vega submitted an ASL interpreter request form 2 months ago when she received a parking citation. The form was submitted to the court clerk's office, the traffic division, and the prosecutor's office. It included her contact information, her interpreter's contact information, and our request that all future interactions include ASL access. Caprio's expression hardened, so the system knew. The system was notified and the system ignored it. Miss Reyes continued. There are also 3 emails from the interpreter's agency requesting confirmation that an interpreter will be provided for any court appearances or law enforcement interactions. None of the emails were answered. Caprio leaned back. None were answered. Miss Reyes turned another page. There's also a voicemail transcript from the jail supervisor told the interpreter's agency. It was left at 11:03 p.m. on November 3rd. It says, "Wouldn't pay interpreters at night. I have to write notes." The room went cold. Caprio's voice was soft, surgical. Rights are not a luxury item. They are not budget dependent. He turned to the prosecutor. "Does your office have a position on this?" The prosecutor stood. His voice was uncertain. "Your Honor, the department is reviewing procedures." Reviewing? Caprio interrupted. "A woman was arrested for being deaf. An interpreter was arrested for interpreting, and the system is reviewing procedures." He leaned forward. "If you believe accessibility is a right, not a favor, subscribe to Order in the Court, Ada Code Summary Line. Interpreters must be provided before questioning." The courtroom door opened again. Naomi Clarke entered, escorted by Officer D'Angelo. She looked exhausted. Her clothes were wrinkled from a night in holding, but her expression was steady, professional. Caprio stood. It was the first time anyone in the courtroom had seen him stand during a hearing. "Miss Clarke, Hezade, on behalf of this court, I apologize. What was done to you was wrong. What was done to Miss Vega was wrong, and I intend to make sure it doesn't happen again." Naomi's eyes filled. She nodded. Caprio gestured toward witness stand. "Please, I need you to interpret, and I need to hear what happened." Naomi took the stand. The clerk swore her in. She looked at Marisol. She signed. Marisol's face flooded with relief. Her hands moved quickly, urgently. Naomi interpreted that she's asking what's happening. She's asking if she's going to jail. She's asking why no one would talk to her. Caprio's voice was gentle. "Tell her she's not going to jail. Tell her I'm going to make sure she understands everything from this moment forward." Naomi signed. Marisol's shoulders.